Good morning, everybody. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. It is Wednesday, the 2nd of June. I didn't change my calendar, but I remember what today is because, yeah, I'm just doing so good right now. I'm making fun of myself because of the fact that I feel very tired. I feel groggy, and I know it's a combination of gloomy weather and just, you know, sleep troubles and, things that can sometimes bring a person down, but I'm trying not to let it bring me down. Um, I did get to read a little bit of this, which I will talk about here in a little bit. But I wanted to sorry. I wanted to answer um, some questions, and Nellie was the one who provided these questions. And when I read them, I was like, well, maybe I'll talk about them because I guess one of the videos that she watched recently, I don't know if it was my cleaning video or my shopping video, but she asked, why don't I try to sell cars? Well, I did try to sell cars at one point in time. Of course, this was back in New York, and New York is a lot more aggressive than here in Missouri. I'm one of those kind of guys that I can present a lot of good show. And I'm not saying everything I do here is show, but if whatever it is I'm doing is something that I'm enjoying or something that is bringing me some form of joy, I can probably sell the crud out of it. I'm pretty sure if I got hired to do car sales at like Dodge or Ford or something like that, where I'm dealing mostly with pickup trucks or SUVs, I could probably do a fairly good job of selling those. Of course, for me to be able to do a good job selling those, I would have to be able to take the vehicle that I'm going to try to sell and get in it, play with it, drive it, basically, get the experience of the feel for the vehicle before I can sell it. Because if I don't know anything about the product that I'm trying to sell, whether it's a car or food or whatever, um, I have a hard time trying to present it. My cleaning video where I was doing the bathroom, well, I had to learn how to basically take care of my own home or my own apartment, um, all on my own. It was basically trial and error, learning by experience. And I find that learning with hands-on, making my own mistakes and not having somebody hover over me and harp at me for whatever I'm doing. I'm not saying Jerry harps at me, but the point is, I had many, many months, well, at least 4 years of living on my own, outside of my mom's house or outside of a family home, to learn how to do certain things. And I already knew basics like don't mix this chemical with that chemical, thanks to what I did learn in school when it came to home ec. A male person took home ec. Most people think home ec is for women only, but no. Men need to know a certain amount of things to do. So if they go living out of their own, moving out of mom's house or whatever, they know at least the basics. And that's my philosophy in life. It doesn't matter if old world, old school saying goes, the kitchen is for the women, the men are supposed to be out in the field, blah, blah. No. I think look at the Vikings. Look at the Norsemen. Men and women they worked in union with each other. Yes, for the most part, the male would go out raiding and whatnot and being a Viking and that kind of thing, while the women and children would stay behind and take care of things. But the thing is, for the most part, during the Viking Age, women were doing just about as much, if not more, than men when it came to house chores. You had the various different age levels where the Vikings, those people did not go Viking or did not do the Viking thing. Um, they stayed behind to take care of the farms, help the families, whatever. Not every man during the Viking era went raiding, and not every woman stayed behind to take care of the house during the raiding season. Why do you think during the Viking Age we had shield maidens? Shield maidens weren't women who just stood behind a shield to protect the men. They grabbed a sword, they grabbed an axe, they grabbed a spear, they grabbed a shield. They went in a bloody battle just as good as the men did. I really don't think there is a sexist type attitude amongst the Vikings. Women can work as hard as men, and men can, do kitchen work or tending farm animals just as good as women could. You know, it really depended on a lot of different things. And I think it's an attitude thing more than just well, you're a woman, you should be in the kitchen, and I'm a man, I should be working on the car. No, no, no. I mean, heck, if I did not get married with Jerry, and mom started getting sick and whatnot, and I wasn't bouncing between Yellowstone National Forest, Yellowstone National Park, and the Grand Canyon, working with the resort system in the national parks, I would come home and be with mom for a while, and until she didn't need me no more. So yeah, if I well, if it wasn't for the factor, most car sales industry is you only get X amount of dollars per. I don't know if it's hourly or not. I can't remember what it was back in Toyota in New York, but from my experience in New York doing car sales, I was getting pennies to the dollar unless I sold a car, or I was given money from one of the actual salespeople because I did them a solid. Like the one time I had a car salesman ask me if I'd be willing to drive one of our vehicles from our lot in New York to Connecticut, pick up a vehicle there in Connecticut and drive it back. And I drove a RAV4 from New York to Connecticut following I didn't have GPS like I do on my phone. I had to follow a map. And I was nervous as all get out because of the fact that, what would happen if I got into a wreck and demolished the RAV4. And I drove back a Prius, and I tell you what, that Prius for a hybrid had more get up and go than that RAV4. Of course, that RAV4 was a four banger, basically a four-cylinder vehicle. He gave me a couple $100 for the for the whole ordeal. So I have some experience in car sales, and being I have a certain amount of social anxieties and whatnot, dealing with people face to face, it also makes it a little bit more difficult for me to be a salesperson. That and a factor being, sorry, I heard a noise outside, I couldn't tell what it was. Being modest the way I am, I'd have to be able to afford to get all this fixed, because the smile in itself is it's part of the winning. It's part of what gets you customers. Oh, it's that kid across the street. Why is he not in school? Mama, if your kid's not in school, he should be in homesick. That's my opinion. Sorry. Squirrel. The next thing she said was, have I ever tried tuna melts? Nelly, yes, I've had tuna melts, and I found out that tuna melts do not agree with my stomach. Um, I don't know what it is. Hot tuna, because of the mayo and the other ingredients, plus the cheese on top, that just spikes my lactose intolerance and gives me all kinds of stomach problems. I love my tuna. Um, I actually have done something that was basically it's non-heated tuna melt, and basically what it is, I just took two pieces of bread, a slice of Swiss cheese, and the tuna. Put that in between two slices of bread without cooking it. I had no problems. It's something about the hot tuna that irritates my stomach. And the last thing she asks is, am I going to demonstrate the Brussels sprout recipe? Now, I don't know which recipe you're talking about. Are you talking about the Brussels sprouts with um, Parmesan and mozzarella cheese that we just we'll mash them up after basically, it's basically simple, Nelly. You take parboiled or partially cooked Brussels sprouts. You throw them in a bowl with a teaspoonful of the jarred garlic that's usually sitting in oil. Put that in a container, mash it up, spread it out on a piece of parchment paper, and then sprinkle your Parmesan and your mozzarella cheese on top, and then bake it in the oven for 10 minutes or so, I think it is. You want to cook it where the cheese melts, but it doesn't start to turn brown. It doesn't get like hard, crusty cheese. The only downside with that, I'll be honest with you, is when you do make that recipe, if you don't eat it while it's still warm, the Parmesan and the cheese factor sometimes will pull away from the Brussels sprouts as you're trying to cut it so you can eat it. That's the downside with any kind of cheese dish. If the cheese gets too cold before you consume it, it comes off on its own clump instead of with the other ingredients, unless it's like lasagna or something like that, and then that's a different story. But yeah, Nelly, you're probably right. If I didn't have to worry about my smile and my dentures and whatnot, I probably could sell I could probably make a decent profit selling vehicles for like Dodge or something like that, because I've got more experience with Dodge vehicles than I do any others. Of course, if I became a salesman for a car, I'd probably get either a discount on a vehicle of my choice, or as a salesperson, I'd probably get the ability to drive one of the vehicles around for free, or something along that line, which I wouldn't mind, because if I was a salesman for Dodge or even Ford, more Dodge than Ford, because I know more about Dodges than Fords, but if I was a salesman and they said, well, you're doing such a great job, we're giving you a car, I would be like, sure. Then I'd talk to Jerry Ann about what kind of vehicle should I pick. Should I pick a Dodge Rams? Should I pick up a Dakota or some sort of other Dodge pickup truck? Or should I go for one of the SUVs? Because the Dodge dealership here in Rolla is Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep. So I'd have my pick between the three different brands. And I've eyeballed a couple of different Jeep vehicles, like the Jeep Commander and the Jeep, I forgot the other name of that Jeep that it looks like it looks like almost like a Hummer, but it's a Jeep with the tail end, the front end of a Jeep and the tail end of a pickup truck. I think it was a Jeep Commander. It's been a while since I've looked online at Jeeps, like, hey, I want one. I think the biggest reason why I want either a Jeep or a pickup truck is so I can go in the backwoods camping and whatnot without having to worry about, bouncing around or getting stuck in the mud because a RV would be too low to the ground or too not capable of off-road type situations. Because sometimes when I think about camping, I'm thinking about out in the middle of nowhere, off-road, with very little to no people around me type situation. Um, anyhow, my last video, which I don't know if I don't think I posted it. I think I got scheduled to post later on this afternoon. We're getting into the cleaning out your clutter. I almost said cutter. And I read a couple pages. But as she goes to state in here, I'm just gonna read the marked areas that I did. As she states in here, clutter is not cozy in Denmark. Well, actually, she says in Denmark, the United States, or anywhere. Perhaps you have a pile of clothing catalogs strewn on the dining room table, or a dozen bottles of hair care products crowded onto a small bathtub ledge. Basically, she's talking about the difference. The beginning of this chapter talks about the difference between clutter and hoarding, and she also goes to say the first key to dealing with clutter is to identify it. That's basically what we did. If you're a member of my wife Jenny Ann's not website, YouTube page, you'll notice that we've been doing a lot of cleaning. And yesterday we finished decluttering and going through a lot of her clothes, or a lot of our clothes, not just hers but mine too. And we literally weeded out all the clothing in our dressers in the closet that either we can store away for winter clothes. Basically, instead of keeping all our clothes out all year round, we're storing away the winter clothes. And then what wasn't winter, we went through it all. Winter, spring, summer, and fall for Jerry. I have 2 sets of clothing. I have, well, not 2 sets, like 1 shirt, 1 pair of pants, that kind of thing. I have a couple of winter clothing items that are specifically winter, and then I have a bunch of all year round type clothing. But we went through some of my stuff, and I was like, I haven't worn this in 2 years. I haven't worn this in 2 years. I haven't worn this in 2 years. And I literally downsized a whole lot of stuff. Jerry, on the other hand, she has basically in the closet spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And we went through all her clothes, 2 different dressers, downsized her dresser clothing to 1 dresser. We downsized a whole lot of her clothing. In fact, let me see if I can do this without too many problems. See the pile of white trash bags? This is why I'm very proud of my wife right now. That whole pile of white garbage bags is clothing from, literally 90% of it is from Jerry Ann. Literally downsizing all her clothes, downsizing her seasonal clothing, her everyday clothing, just basically getting rid of stuff that she hasn't worn or is out of style or fashion in her brain. So I'm like, yay, my wife is actually doing it. So yeah, she's starting to understand the difference between clutter and hoard. And no, I don't mean hoard if you're a World of Warcraft person. I mean hoarding as in just keeping stuff for the sake of keeping stuff. Then she goes on here to say, if you notice them, they're clutter. So basically, if you notice you've got too much stuff, it's clutter. Let's see here. And then I underlined that, I'm just reading you stuff that I underlined real quick. Does your space feel cluttered to you? If the answer is no, then move to the next chapter. Well, yeah, some of my space does feel like clutter, so I wanted to read this chapter. Even if I didn't feel it was cluttered, I'd still read this chapter. But yeah, I know I've got clutter. And Jerry's starting to see it too, so, that's a good thing. If you answered something along the lines of maybe sometimes, often, or yes, then let's dig in and rein in our clutter. And then she goes to put in bullet points of how clutter can affect you. A comfort-driven life does not have room for clutter. Here are the many benefits of keeping your space tidy. I used to keep I'll be honest with you, my space was so tidy when I used to live with mom before I moved to New York, or well, ever since I started living on my own back in 91, when I moved no, it would have been 1990 when I was living in my own apartment trying to keep it clean, even though it was unfortunately, the roach aspect was not totally my fault. It was just the way that area was built up. Because my neighbors had roaches and they were very clean, and people across the street had roaches and it was very clean. It was just the sewer pipes of Arizona were breeding grounds for roaches. And I hate those little buggers. Anyhow, the first one is clutter affects the ability to focus. Research at Princeton Neuroscience Institute used fundamental magnetic I'm not going to read that whole thing because I'm going to botch it up. But basically, they did research and they found out people who have cluttered homes have a lack of focus. Their focus is all over the place. Then then she goes to talk about clutter can make you feel depressed and more. And then she talks about a research done in UCLA back between 2001 and 2005. That basically they explored a relationship between 32 different California families and clutter and how it affects them. And they found the results are basically it produces high cortisol, which is basically a stress hormone in women. Men, on the other hand, don't find mess a put off. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know a lot of guys who don't mind messes, especially if they're controlled chaos. But me, I'm one of those people that is like, if I can't find a certain item and I know where I put it because I always put it in the same place and somebody else moves it, or there's just way too much stuff in a drawer or wherever that item is supposed to be, it frustrates the heck out of me. I hate clutter. I really hate it. I've learned to deal with it because I'm not saying most of, but a good percentage of the clutter is because of too much stuff from my wife. Now, I can look around this room right now because the fact of this room is not organized or straightened out, and it's kind of a staging point that we're using in the house, but I still have enough room to get in and out without too many problems. How am I able to do these videos without getting stressed out or depressed or whatnot? Is because the fact that I don't focus on it. I learned to become narrow-minded when it comes to what this particular room looks like right now, because the fact that my brain goes, the way it is right now is not the way it's going to be, because we are going through and decluttering and rearranging furniture and rearranging rooms and a whole 9 yards. So don't let it get to you. And that's how I am right now, because I know what this is. But when I go into other rooms that we're not working on and I see the mess, the clutter, the dust bunnies and that kind of stuff, I start going, I have to do something to at least clean it up a little bit. Sweep the floor, vacuum the rug, whatever. But yeah, I am not happy with clutter. I'm one of those guys who are just like, nope. It's not controlled. It's not organized. It's just a mess. So we are working on it. So I'm not like getting overly anxious about it. Then she goes to say clutter obesity connection, the connection between clutter and obesity. Researchers from Cornell University studied 101 women and found that those who eat in a cluttered kitchen consume 103 more calories per sitting than individuals who eat in an organized kitchen. The study was published in the journal Environment and Behavior in 2016. This is one of the reasons why most of my family who are naturally big boned, they're not obese, they're big boned. A lot of my family members look like they could be obese, but doctors say no, it's not obesity. But the thing is, I've noticed with my in-laws whose homes and kitchens are a total wreck. Not all of them, some of them are a total wreck, and they have issues with obesity in themselves and a couple of their kids. So that right there, I can kind of understand because the fact that, yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of raised where the whole house can look like a wreck, but if the kitchen and the eating areas are clean and neat and organized, that's good. Not just because of the factor of the mindset of overeating because of what you see around you. It's just a cleanly healthy factor. I mean, like, who would want to eat, let alone make dinner in a kitchen that just looks like crap? I sure in heck wouldn't. Being somebody who's worked in the food industry, I know what kind of possible contaminants you can cause yourself with having an unclean kitchen. And I think that's why I'm so obsessed with, keeping my kitchen clean. Let alone the rest of my house. I mean, look what I did with the bathroom. Next one is clutter can negatively affect many areas of your life. I believe that. In 2016 study titled Stuff Happens, undertaken by the Australian Institute, surveying 1,000 Australians about clutter. The finding shows that 80% of homes have at least one cluttered room. 4 in 10 Australians say they feel anxious, guilty, or depressed about clutter in their homes, and the average Australian spends $1,226 a year on items they have been purchased and never used. Almost $1,300 in unused or just mindless purchases. And 59% of women say there was a room in the house that they didn't like visitors to see because of clutter. I can understand that because, yeah, every time we hear about, oh yeah, we're going to have guests, either the dining room, which was this room, or my wife's craft room, has all the stuff, kind of just all the extra stuff shoved into, sorry, my nose itches, just so people wouldn't see it and we wouldn't even, oh, that's Jerry's craft room, there's no reason to open it up. Oh, that's a dining room, but it's too small for actual dining events. That's because the fact that I was embarrassed. I don't know about Jerry, but I was embarrassed about it. It's like, oh, don't worry about going in there. We don't use that room. Oh, that's Jerry's craft room. It's always going to be a mess. That was the excuse for not opening the door to let people see in there. Of course, I can't wait till we get done actually reorganizing this room so I can sit there and go, hey, let me give you the penny tour. Or the nickel tour, however I used to say it, I can't remember. Yes, I'm drinking soda. Don't yell at me. Then the next one is clutter can be embarrassing. Oh, whoop, I read that one. Sorry. No, wait a minute. That's two different ones. I'm sorry. Let me read this because it's two different ones. I started reading and I was like, wait a minute. It's almost the same thing as the top one. This one is clutter can be embarrassing. In the 2016 Australian survey mentioned above, 32% of females respondent respondents agreed that clutter made them feel embarrassed. 17% worried their children would inherit the clutter. 17% of them worried about their kids inheriting mommy and daddy's clutter. And 20% agreed that clutter caused. Slow down, Jim. Let me start over. And 20% agreed that clutter caused conflict with a partner or family member. This was a study done in Australia. Australia does not, I don't think they have as many citizens in their borders as America, North America, the United States, not North America, just the United States has in the lower 48. That's not including Alaska and Hawaii. I agree with that last sentence because clutter does cause conflict between me and Jerry and Mom, the three of us who live in this house. Mom gets to the point where she doesn't even want to come out and deal with the clutter. She'll come out of her room to get a soda or to eat dinner, or if we decide to have a family game night, which we might do because HQ is not going to be back till tomorrow. So I understand. And me and Jerry get into, excuse my belching. Just one good drink of soda, and that's what happens. Me and Jerry get in conflicts all the time about it. Her stuff is overflowing into my stuff. My stuff doesn't have room, or is overflowing on her stuff. Whatever. Or I'm tripping over stuff because the factor it hasn't been dealt with. Now, do I blame her? No, not 100%, because I can easily pick it up and do whatever I want with it. But for the sake of trying to keep the peace, I try to deal with it by picking it up and going, "What do you want me to do with this? This is in the way, or this is causing a problem, whatnot." We try to communicate as best as we can with each other to deal with the clutter and the conflicts without getting into a dispute, argument, debate, whatever. It's one of the many things that I've learned, that in order to keep Hagee or have a sense of Hagee is communication lines need to be open. Communication needs to be non-hostile, non-aggressive. Just a simple, "Honey, this is causing me problems. What can I do with it? Where can I put it that you can get to it without causing problems? Let's try to fix our problem." It's just a simple keeping open communication, try not to be hostile and try not to be aggressive. This is something young couples need to learn, because in fact I know a couple of young couples who are having issues because either communications break down or one of the two are being a little too hostile, or their form of communication is a bit hostile. Ugh. Next one down. People who are at risk of becoming hoarders have poor sleep. Yes, sleep is connected to this. Research conducted by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine in 2015 found that those people at risk of hoarding disorder scored significantly higher for sleep abnormalities, including trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, that's my wife, and daytime sleepiness or sleep on sleep surveys. I've never taken a sleep survey. Never. Jerry did once because she was having sleep apnea. Jerry said I should take it because sometimes I fall asleep before her, and before she falls asleep, she thought at one or two different times that I stopped breathing. Not a good thing. That's probably one of the other reasons why I was suggested to sleep on my side instead of my back. And I can't sleep on my stomach because I have enough problems breathing as is. Anyhow, after those little bullet points on how clutter affects us, she has a little thing in here on the back called Clutter versus Hoarding. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she talks about that the difference between a hoarder and a clutter, somebody with clutter, is a hoarder will have from floor to ceiling of old newspapers, magazines, stuff that are like decades old that could have been thrown away at the end of the year. They just have hoarders have trouble literally throwing stuff away. My wife, at one point in time, I did worry about her being a hoarder because of the fact that she had trouble throwing stuff away. And I said, look, it's simple. I can understand your family has kept memories of childhood events all the way back from her, you know, the day she came home from the hospital type situation. I said it's good to keep family memories and certain portraits and whatnot, but to hold on to drawings from your kindergarten days or your report card from your elementary days and whatnot, there's a point in time where you have to draw the line and decide how much to keep. Now I can understand keeping, a couple of the cards that you come home at the end of the school year with your grades and whatnot on your report card. There we go, report card, or certain important medical transcriptions or medical files and whatnot. But to hold on to age old, crumbling, falling apart pieces of paper, or whatnot, I it doesn't make any sense to me. Now, the reason why it doesn't make any sense to me is growing up in the military, certain things get lost or destroyed or misplaced or whatnot during a move. I bless yet I curse Superstorm Sandy, because if it wasn't for Superstorm Sandy coming in and flooding about 3 feet worth of water inside my house, the place I was living at the time, my father-in-law's house, basically, we probably would have brought a whole bunch of stuff from New York to here that I didn't see any sense of keeping. Joanne, for the sake of tried to dry it out and whatnot, but the drying out process either caused the paperwork to fade to the point where you couldn't read it, or a lot of pictures were gummed together, or they just crumbled as they dried, and when she went to pick them up after drying, they'd fall apart. And I was thankful that a lot of important family history type paperwork and documents did not get wet for her. I didn't want her to lose everything. I don't want anybody to lose everything. But the fact that she lost a bunch of what I consider nonsensical, non-important papers and photos and whatnot was just kind of like, hey, I know how much it hurts and how hard it is to lose all that stuff, but at the same time, look at it as a blessing in disguise, because we had been talking about trying to weed through all the stuff that her father kept. So, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise in certain ways. And I don't wish anybody to lose family memories or stuff like that. But like I said, there's a time where you have to decide when it's too much. And that's my point. I've tried to balance things out because of the fact that she lived in the same place all her life until Hurricane Sandy came through. I've lived multiple locations throughout my life. Every 3 years we're moving because of the military, but after my dad retired, we still moved from a different part of Phoenix to another part of Phoenix up until my father passed away. And then Mom and I moved from Mesa, Arizona to Paradise Valley, Arizona, which is they're all suburbs of Phoenix. And then we moved back out here to the Midwest. And because of that lifestyle, we only held on to important paperwork or important documents or, stuff that was important. It wasn't, In fact, it wasn't up until I got married that I had more than a week's to 7 to 8 days worth of clothing in my dresser drawers. I mean, I had this Filipino dresser that's only like 4 big drawers and 2 small drawers, and my smaller drawers had socks, and the other one had underwear and handkerchiefs, and then pajamas, t-shirts, pants, and what was it? Pajamas, t-shirts, pants, and I forgot what was in the very last drawer, whether it was more pants, because pants are bulkier than t-shirts, or winter clothes, because, you know, most of my clothing was interchangeable, and winter clothes was like sweatpants and sweatshirts. So I never had a lot. My lifestyle was never an extreme amount. It was always enough to get through a week, and then it was laundry time. And on the day of laundry, it was basically your last set of clothing, or you were basically running around the house in pajamas. You know, I wish I had kept, or I wish my photo album, the one photo album that was destroyed, I wish would have been salvaged or not destroyed. It was a photo album of what my room looked like in Mom's house before I moved to New York to be involved with Jay-Ann's life. It looked like something. It did not look like a bachelor's bedroom, unless the bachelor is one of those clean freaks and kept everything nice and clean. In fact, during the summer months, I never had to worry about making or unmaking my bed. I'd have a spare sheet, an oddball sheet, and during the summertime, I would lay on top of my bedding and whatnot, and just pull a sheet over me. That was it. I didn't need all my other bedding, and I didn't want to disassemble my bed every night just to, sleep under a sheet. Of course, sometimes I'd have to be under the actual covers because Mom would have the house so cold. Actually, no. Mom always liked the house warm. She always liked the Arizona temperature, but not the dry heat. So even in the summertime, I was sleeping under just a sheet, sometimes just on top of the covers, with a bedside fan blowing on me, an oscillating fan blowing on me to keep me cool. The only part of the house that would have been comfortable enough for me during the summertime would have been the basement, but the basement was an unfinished basement that just was dank, dark, nasty. Typical Midwest basement that nobody uses. Of course, we were renting that house because I was thinking to myself, man, if we actually own this house, because the basement had the level of the house, or the level of the ground, ran downwards, and the basement had a window and door, like somebody can come and go. Somebody could have like finished the basement into a small apartment and basically been able to come and go as they please without going through the main part of the house. Downside was during the rainier season, sometimes the basement would have water come into it. It's what I wanted. That's kind of what I wanted when we moved here. When me and Jerry moved here, I was thinking, if we can get a house that had 2 levels, and the basement was a fully finished basement, we saw a couple of decent houses, and Mom was like, "Oh, I can live down here while you guys live upstairs," and I was kind of like, "No." Because then Mom would complain about the noise from us walking and all that stuff. I was thinking the opposite. Mom is very light-footed, could live upstairs while we live downstairs. Anyhow, we got this house, and we love it, so I'm not complaining. But today is Wednesday, so today is my free day to do whatever I want. I will probably go out and make breakfast and whatnot, and then do some projects in here if I feel up to it. And I will try later on tonight to read some more about Cozy Spaces, as it's called, and see what more information I can get out of this book. I'm actually enjoying the book. I'm enjoying the information I'm reading. I might have to put on something a little bit warmer because yesterday it was so cold that we actually turned the heat on, which is like, it's freaking May, June 1st. Why are we turning on the heat? Well, weather front came in, didn't really dump anything on us, but the high was never above 64. And Diane and I were both cold, so it was like, let's turn on the heat for a little bit. I was going to turn on the heat this morning because it was 62 degrees inside the house and 64 outside. And Jared was like, no, it's not cold enough to turn that on. And I'm like, huh? But I'm wearing my Nordic clothing today, and the one thing I do like about the Nordic clothing is, except for the tops, and my upper body is always warmer than my lower body, the pants are nice and warm. They're universal. They can be all weather type clothing until it gets like below 60. But the top is a little bit airier than I would like in this kind of cold weather. And excuse me for getting so close to the camera. I'm sorry. Back itches, and I should push backwards, but I have a bag behind my chair. Oh, that's better. As you can tell, it's got an open air V-neck top, and it shrank a little. And I'm like, oops, maybe I should not be putting the shirts in the wash, because it did shrink a little. So I'm like, let's see what happens when I put the black one on tomorrow, or the next day, or whenever I put it on again. But because today is basically free day to basically do as I choose, I choose to wear these clothing because, well, the reason why I don't wear my Nordic clothing or my Renaissance clothing on an everyday basis is I decided last week, when I was wearing them every day, that the potential chance of damaging the clothing, either I stretch too much and it rips the pants or something like that, is they're not easy to replace. They're a little on the, even on Amazon, the cheapest I've seen so far for shirts were like $12 to $15. And the cheapest I've seen for pants were like $25 to $36 for my size. And I had talked to Jerry Ann about getting me a couple more shirts, especially maybe one more pair of pants. And Jan, who's the bargain hunter, she'll hunt for a bargain all day long just to get whatever we want or need. And she found a couple items that were on discount at the time, and I was like, not that I want to get them right away, but do you think we should, just because of the fact that we might not find another set or pair or whatever on discount? So I don't know, I can't remember what the final verdict was. I think the final verdict was no, don't get them just yet, because they're not important. They're not a necessity. I don't really need them because I've got a couple. So yeah, that's where we're at on that. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, because this is almost a 15-minute video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the comment box. Nelly did a really good job last time. Her last couple messages. In fact, I want to apologize to you guys, because the last time I did a live stream, which was last weekend, the reason why I didn't put out a message is because, well, it hasn't happened since, but the first time we did a live stream, um, me and Jerry did a live stream on her channel, because I didn't even have mine yet. We got we had issues. You'd have to go back to her first couple of her first videos to find out about it. But let's just say there's a group of people out there who like to troll for people who are doing live sessions, and basically could get themselves in trouble if they're ever discovered. Call the police about it. Yeah. So, but I haven't had that problem yet, and if I ever do, I'm gonna request the police launch an investigation so I can find the person, and not only will they get in trouble for calling the police, but I could sue them for it, or get them in trouble for it. But anyhow, if you're new to my channel and you like my videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, a little bell will pop up, and YouTube will let you know when I put in my next video. So until next time, you guys have a good day. Enjoy. Bye.